In this video, I'm going to teach you how to train for the handstand push-up. This is a very difficult movement to achieve, but even training for it will build a lot of strength in your shoulders, triceps, and upper chest. Additionally, this movement requires a lot of stability in your wrists, forearms, and your core. If you're a beginner in calisthenics, I recommend watching my video for beginners so you can learn the foundational exercises before moving on to this movement. Now, you don't actually need to be able to hold a handstand before training this movement. This is actually one of the ways to get your first handstand, although it might not be the easiest. Now, that being said, if you can do 25 push-ups and 15 dips in a row with good form, you're ready to start doing inverted squats. Many of these exercises need quite a bit of shoulder mobility above the shoulder. Maintaining a decent line during a handstand greatly depends on your ability to reach over your head with your arms. Second, avoid skipping your hamstring stretches because many of the previous exercises need a high level of hamstring flexibility. Lastly, you must open up your shoulders in an overhead posture and tuck your elbows in for the handstand push-up. I strongly advise performing a few sets during your warm-up before performing your strength exercises if you're not flexible in any of these areas. This will increase your range of motion, lessen the amount of pain you experience during your session, and reduce your chance of injury. You can now begin strengthening progressions when you're aware of any restrictions in your flexibility or mobility. The exercises I'm about to list can be viewed almost as levels in a game in which you should meet a certain set of requirements before moving on to the next level to guarantee safety and consistent progress. The following exercises can be done on the floor with no equipment, but I do recommend getting yourself a pair of push-up bars or parallettes, as using these puts less pressure on your wrists and gives you more control while you are balancing. Level 1 is the Pike push-up. Much like a regular push-up, you want your elbows tucked in instead of flaring out. Something to help with this is to think about turning your elbow pits forward when you are doing them. When you go down, you want to bring your nose to a point in front of your hands rather than directly in between. And when you come back up, you want to tuck your head in between your shoulders and reach high up with your arms. Be patient with this stage because whatever form you use for the Pike push-up will also determine the form that you use for the handstand push-up. To help establish good habits, film yourself from the front and side angles in this stage. You should also start getting used to what it feels like to balance your entire body weight on your hands. The easiest way to do this is by performing what's called a frog stand, where you rest your inner thigh onto your elbows with your arms slightly bent, and experimenting with micro movements in your wrists to stop yourself from falling. Once you can perform 3 sets of 12 of Pike push-ups, as well as a 15-second frog stand, you can move on to the next progression, which is the elevated Pike push-up. Find a surface in which you can prop your feet up while performing this movement, still keeping your legs straight and your upper body form the same as you were before, by elevating your feet on progressively higher and higher surfaces. You are shifting more of your body weight onto your arms, strengthening them to be able to push your entire body weight in the future. At this point, you can start to build up your handstand by performing wall-assisted handstands with your stomach facing the wall. Lock out your arms, elevate your shoulders, and look in front of your hands. Try to stack your hips directly above your wrists and only keep your toes against the wall with your core tight. Set a goal for about 3 sets of 60 seconds of wall handstand holds and 3 sets of 12 reps for elevated Pike push-ups. If you've never done handstands before, your brain might have this natural response of panic whenever you enter an upside down position due to the fear of falling. Now, you're more than likely to fall several times during your handstand journey, but I'm going to teach you how to fall correctly and safely. Learning how to correctly bail out of a handstand and actually practicing falling is the best way to get over this fear. So what I do is, if I feel like I'm about to fall over in a handstand, I would pick a side to fall towards instead of falling straight through. Whichever side I want to land on, I release my arm pressure for that side, so I end up in almost a half cartwheel, so I always land on my feet. Practice this until you don't have panic moment anymore. Once you've completed this level, you can move on to the next progression, which is handstand push-ups against the wall. From the wall-assisted handstand, you want to slowly descend, focusing on only keeping your toes sliding against the wall and maintaining a straight body line, and aim to touch your nose in front of your hands, just like you would in a pike push-up. If you're doing this properly, as in you're not excessively flaring out your elbows, your body should be moving in a slightly diagonal movement pattern rather than straight up and down. At this point, you're pushing pretty much your entire body weight with your hands in a handstand push-up motion. So what's really left is just learning the balance. You can begin practicing the balancing motion of a freestanding handstand by lifting your legs slowly off the wall from a wall-assisted handstand position. Make sure your hips are slightly directly above your wrists, and start lifting your legs off of the wall one by one to the point where you can hold a suspended handstand position without any assistance. Once you're able to hold the freestanding handstand position for at least 5 to 10 seconds, and you're able to do 3 sets of 12 reps of wall-assisted handstand push-ups, you can move on to the next progression. At this point, you should have enough strength in your pike push-ups to lift your feet off of the ground. As your hands will be directly under your center of gravity for you to lift off the ground, you're going to want to lean enough forward at the bottom so that your legs naturally pick up off the ground. The goal here is to hold this floating pike position for as long as you can. When you're comfortable enough with balancing this position, slowly start extending your legs out behind you to enter what's called the bent arm handstand. Now you should be ready to attempt the upward motion of the handstand push-up. Enter the floating pike as you normally would, but try to kick upwards with your legs to generate momentum and at the same time push up as hard as you can. At first, you might not shoot up into a perfectly vertical handstand, and you will fall into either one of the two categories: overshooting or undershooting. Overshooting is usually caused by too much of an arch in your lower back or a bend in the legs. When you reach the handstand position, make sure to keep your abs activated and your legs straight to prevent this. Now, undershooting can be caused by having your elbows too far behind your wrist, or you're extending your legs and arms too early before allowing your hips to stack above your shoulders. To prevent this, when you're in the uppermost range of motion and you're about to lock out your arms, think about pushing your shoulders up to your ears and also pushing from the back of your hand. After practicing this movement for a while, you will be able to go up slower and slower in a more controlled fashion, and you will be able to lock in a handstand at the top. At this point, you can also practice the descending motion of a handstand push-up by either starting from the wall and lowering down slowly without any assistance, or you can try adding a negative after you kick up into a handstand from a pike push-up. Over time, focus on doing the negative portion of the handstand push-ups slower and slower, and eventually you will be able to pause in the bent arm handstand. And finally, if you're able to enter a handstand, lower down and then push back up, you have achieved the handstand push-up. I will now move on to the conditioning exercises. These are movements of lower intensity, and you should do these after your strength workout for the day. The hollow body hold is great for conditioning your core and involves laying on your back and lifting your arms and legs. Next is a Superman hold, which is basically a reverse hollow body hold, where you lift your arms and your feet off of the ground while laying on your stomach. This is really helpful for conditioning your lower back and your arm elevation for a straighter line in a handstand. And next is the L-sit, which is great for conditioning your core. That is all for me for this tutorial. If you have any questions or suggestions, please leave them down in the comment section below. Anyways, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.